I can't really fault a Shaun the Sheep movie, Farmageddon. But that being said, I didn't personally love this. The stop motion, absolutely. The story and the lack of dialogue, not so much. The lack of dialogue is something I expected. It's Shaun the Sheep. But the story just didn't appeal to me personally. But there's nothing about it that I can point to as being bad. So that's purely a personal preference thing. This was released in 2019. It's a feature film directed by Becher and Phelan. And of course, we have a great voice cast as far as voice acting goes in Shaun the Sheep, including, of course, Justin Fletcher as Shaun. We have Amalia Vitale as Lula. Lula is a brilliant character in terms of the character design. And Lula is actually an alien, and she crash lands near the farm, and Shaun the Sheep tries to help her to get back home. And it's all about her exploring things and interacting with things and causing a little bit of bother here and there. And I do really like the character design. I don't know if I like the character, by which I mean I don't ever think I connected with the character. I don't really have that many emotions in response to the character. I certainly didn't dislike the character. But the design, I really like. It's also a colour, or the character's also a colour that we don't usually get in Shaun the Sheep films and TV shows. It's a very bright colour. Obviously, with Shaun the Sheep, we usually get a lot of earthy tones, browns and greens. But Lula is a kind of mix of blues and purples, and that definitely makes this a little bit different to the average Shaun the Sheep story. The actual story itself is largely what didn't appeal to me. But as I said, that is purely a personal preference thing. I'm not really that bothered, by which I mean I do not care about stories about aliens or anything like that. So that part of it just didn't work for me. But if you're a fan of that kind of story, and I think it might also appeal to a lot of young children, then, and older children, of course, then that might work very well for you. But even though I didn't care much about the narrative, and even though I would have liked dialogue, but again, it's what I expected, the animation is just so beautiful, and I just loved looking at it, and it did not disappoint. So in general, it is a good film, and I did enjoy it enough. I wouldn't watch it a second time, but I certainly didn't mind watching it once. If you're an existing fan of Shaun the Sheep and you haven't seen it, absolutely check it out. If you're new to Shaun the Sheep, unless you're particularly a fan of alien-based stories, it's not the first one that I'd recommend. But nevertheless, if it sounds like it would appeal to you, if you're a fan of stop motion, then certainly I think it's worth watching. I enjoyed it. I didn't completely love it. It's not my favourite Shaun the Sheep film, but there was plenty in this. Visually, certainly, the animation just absolutely stunning. I expect no less from Aardman. They always deliver. And this is no exception there. So, really enjoyed parts of it, didn't care for other parts. But in general, I have to say, a Shaun the Sheep movie, Farmageddon, is a pretty good film.